like I said, I recently did a blog post, and I also reached out to my whole network of performance staff, both strength and conditioning coaches, rehab coordinators, strength and power coaches, and high performance managers in the AFL. Was lucky enough to get 11 fill out the questionnaire. It's all confidential, but I'll release the data from that questionnaire, what type of job they received in their first full-time contract, what would they do differently if they were talking to a younger self, and ultimately how important is a mentor. So if you're interested in any of those questions, click the blog post, which is in the show notes, or you can just email me for the blog post. And I'll also announce a couple of those key takeaways in this episode. I've created a scorecard where typically those that I've asked, and in my journey, it takes around 3 to 4 years looking at the data as well as my experience. So it's all anecdotal. Speak to people that have done it. How long has it taken them to land their first job? If you're around the 400 plus points, anywhere between 400 and 500 points when you fill out that scorecard, you're around the mark comparatively to the past of what it takes to become the first full-time employee at an elite pro club like an AFL club. If you're 200 to 399, you're probably about a year or two away. So use the scorecard and find some deficits in your experience or in your academic background in what areas you need to upskill yourself. And if you're under 199 points, you're probably 3 years away. So it could be a wake-up call for some of you that thought, I'm going to finish my degree. We'll get straight to that questionnaire. How many years of semi-pro / community sport did you complete before you landed your first full-time contract in pro sport? So the most here, 36%, it was split down the middle. So 36% were either 1 to 2 seasons or 3 to 4 seasons. Okay, so majority were around that 2 to 4 seasons going off this data. That's aligned with myself as well. Then the second most, interestingly, 18% were 7+ seasons. So that just goes to show how competitive it is and how demanding it is to land and how few opportunities there are. And then 9% were 5 to 6 seasons. So a lot of years putting in the work at about semi-pro level. What was your first full-time role? I think this is a good one just to get an idea of what experiences you want to take at semi-pro level. So first full-time role, the biggest or most popular, 36%, head of academy, strength and conditioning coach, which is the same for myself. Second most was equal. So 27% was a PhD sports scientist. And then the other one at 27% was a reconditioning coach, which is the role I'm in at the moment. That's a typical stepping stone from either your first full-time contract. What academic qualifications had you completed for your first full-time contract? 72% Bachelor of Sports Science and Human Movement, 18% Masters of Sports Science and Human Movement, and 9% filled out other, which was a Bachelor of Physiotherapy. So goes to show once you've completed your Bachelor of Sports Science, you are more than around the mark qualified to be able to get a full-time job in pro sport. So for a lot of you listening in there that have your Bachelor of Sports Science, or perhaps you're listening and you're finishing your Bachelor of Sports Science, if you've maximized your time and you've got a lot of work experience under your belt, you've now got an opportunity to land your first full-time job at the end of this year. So don't use that as from a mindset point of view anyway. It shouldn't be an excuse if you haven't got your masters. Certainly wasn't for me. So once I finished my bachelor's, because I was a mature age, I finished mine later on. I would have been about 25, 26 when I finished mine. I did land my first full-time job at the end of that, of finishing my bachelor's. With what you now know, what would your advice be to yourself starting out your career in high performance sport? Ultimately, what would you do differently? So here are some of the key pointers, which is probably, I find, probably the best insight and best actionable tips that you can take from this questionnaire. First one was take risks, put yourself out there. Second, surround yourself with great people who care about you. Say yes to everything that is ethically asked of you and keep a journal of your reflections. The third one, be patient, listen and learn. Fourth, it is a very high demand occupation. Some people are in the right place at the right time and make the transition seamlessly from intern to employee. However, for most, being an intern will not always result in employment. If you truly love what you do, you will be happy to work at any level. If you do that for long enough, while also developing your skills and networks along the way, you will eventually get there. Take all that gives you real world experience.